So I talked earlier about one of my favorite examples here in terms of systems, to open your mind a little bit. And it's the concept I want to talk about is incentives, incentivization. Incentives, in my personal opinion, are one of the most dangerous ideas ever to hit business. Incentives. I recommend that if you're going to use them, that you be very careful with them and you pay a lot of attention to what happens when you use them. Test them, see what happens, tread very lightly. And here's why. I haven't ever heard about a system to take people that don't have any intrinsic motivation and quickly give it to them so that they just turn into people who are now intrinsically motivated and want to make everything happen. I'm sure you can do it over time with processes, and I have seen it with people. But I have heard of experiments where you can quickly kill intrinsic motivation. David Ogilvy, all right, now I'm going to go off onto another track for a sec, tangent. One of my examples that I love to use, David Ogilvy, and Ogilvy on Advertising talks about how advertising can unsell customers. You can spend money on ads that makes them not buy. No one's ever thought of that. Right? Alan, who works on our team, one time we were talking about lawsuits, and he has a lot of legal experience. He said, when people sue other people, they typically only think that there's upside. That's it. So if someone sues you, they're probably thinking, the only thing I can get is something good out of this. The worst I have is maybe I could lose some legal expenses. And so he says, it's one of the reasons why a lot of attorneys, standard practices, whenever there's a lawsuit, they file an aggressive countersuit, whether or not it's reasonable. Why? Because in probably most cases, the person who thought, I've only got upside, immediately says, oh, wait a minute here. You mean there's a potential of me losing $10 million? Maybe we should be more reasonable about this and talk about this as adults. So here's the experiment that I read about. And I'm just going to summarize it, sum it up for you. They had a room with some coloring books and some crayons. And they put some kids in the room. And they said, here are some coloring books, here are some crayons. If you color a picture, we'll give you a gold star. And a lot of times in school, gold stars are used as the little reward, right? The dinging bell or the treat if you do a good thing. And so the kids colored away and they got their gold stars. Then they had another group of kids that came into the room and they gave them the coloring books and the crayons, and they said, we're going to leave you alone in here, do whatever you want. So the kids found the coloring books and the crayons and they colored because it looked like something that was interesting to do. Then they took the two groups and they put them back into a room with coloring books and crayons, but they didn't offer any incentives, no gold stars. The kids who were previously offered the gold star, if they colored, came into the room with the crayons and the coloring books, or the coloring books and the crayons, and they left them alone. They weren't interested. Something about connecting an incentive to an intrinsic motivation changes it inside of us. So you have to be really careful, because let's say you have someone on your team and let's say they're doing a great job doing something because they love to do it. And then you say, you know what, I'll tell you what, from now on, every time you complete a successful one of those things that's your project, I'm going to give you an extra $100. Is it possible that you could be killing their intrinsic motivation by adding some little doggy treat at the end? I don't know, but I've seen this kind of thing happen enough, and I've watched the downside of incentives affect enough businesses that I'm very cautious with them. So when you think to yourself, okay, well, I'm just going to incentivize my team, and I'm going to say, you, if you get this done, you get this reward, and you, if I get this done, you get this reward. How are you going to ever know whether or not they would have done it on their own? How are you going to figure it out? Now you're stuck. There is no test after that. You can't say at the end, okay, I'm taking the incentive away. Now just do whatever you want to do and expect them to do it. Because someone that is, You with me? I don't know if you've ever been involved with a company that changed their commission process on their salespeople. That doesn't usually go over very well, right? Anyone ever had that happen to you? It just leaves you with that feeling like, once someone gets something, it's theirs forever. That's it. It just gets integrated in and it's theirs forever. So I try to really stay away from incentivization type stuff, because the first type of behavior that it creates is, how do I work the system? How do I game the system to get what I want to get out of it? There was a story in Wheeler's book, Understanding Variation. If you want to get a short course on this stuff, read Understanding Variation by Wheeler. Understanding Variation. He told a story in there. It's been years since I've read it, so I'll probably screw it up, but you'll get the gist of it. About a company that they were manufacturing, I don't remember what they were manufacturing, widgets, and they had boxes of them that rolled off the factory floor, and they started losing them. They started disappearing, and they couldn't figure out what was going on. So they fired the plant manager, and they got a new one in there, and they said, you got to figure out what's going on here. We're losing a bunch of inventory. We don't know where it's going. Our numbers are getting all screwed up. That person went in, couldn't figure out what was happening, thought maybe someone was stealing stuff, built a fence around the factory. Problem still happened. They fired that person. They hired a new boss to come in. This person at this point realized there are 2 people fired before them. They're, on their edge. Okay, I don't know what to do. They dug in. They finally figured out that what they were doing is there was a shift supervisor or something who was compensated on the production of the plant. And what they were doing every day is, in the middle of the night, they were going down to the finished product, and they were picking up the pallets and going and putting it back on the conveyor belt. So they got counted twice so that they got their bonus. It's a tricky one, huh? It's fun. And another little thing to keep in mind here too is that a lot of times, sometimes you want to use incentives. Some people are motivated by incentives. That's just how they're wired, and that's okay. Yeah, that's fine. You just want to be really careful. And in a lot of cases, the people that are motivated by incentives are the smooth talkers. And so you give them an incentive to do something, and then what do? They talk people into stuff by promising a little more than you can really deliver. This whole fight that happens between the sales team and the manufacturing department, or the technical team that actually has to deliver the thing that the salespeople sold. A lot of this comes down to incentivized, performance-based behavior. I prefer to find stars who, that's just not really how they operate. They know that in the long run, if they perform, they're going to get the check, they're going to get the value, it's going to work out for them. It's going to be fine. And of course, share the wealth, of course, share the proceeds that come, so that everyone looks around and says, yep, this is fair, this makes sense. Be very careful with incentives. They do not work out logically the way you think they are going to.